Right, welcome back, guys. In this video, we're going to take a look at snare rolls and snare buildups. Now, there's a couple of pretty cool samples and loops inside of the DNA sample pack for the tech house stuff from Sonic Academy. You can use these as a starting point or as just a quick way to get these into your tunes. But I'll show you another way that you can kind of redo these with a little more control inside of Bitwig really easily. Now we're just going to use the V9 snare for this, which is one of the new drum modules. Now, I really like using this method. It's super simple to do, and you get some really interesting results from it as well. And most of the pattern generation can be done through automation as well, which is really nice. It's kind of algorithmic. So what we're going to do is we're just going to insert one of the note repeat modules in here. The note repeat, obviously, you hold down a note now. Sorry, I've got the note receiver there. We're looking for note repeat. Hold down a pattern, hold down a note, and it repeats. You can set this to different values if you want. So that can be useful actually if you are layering up multiple snares. You can have different time signatures for each of them. But the one that I like the most is to use the Euclid setting right over here. Now you heard some of the patterns in those samples. You can get something very similar to this. But those are kind of quite sparse. So what I like to do in this case is actually turn the density up to full. We'll leave this on 16th. We can now turn up the velocity sensitivity on the drums or on the snare drum here. Getting more of that groove now. Now you can adjust how much of that happens as well by the low velocity setting that you have down at the bottom here. If we go 50%, those in-between ones, the softer ones, are going to be 50% the velocity of the higher ones. You can also adjust the count. So very much the same way that you change the pattern that you have here. You can adjust this to only 26% of the notes, for example. And what the Euclidean is doing is, this makes sense, 25% would divide it into 4 because it's 25% of 16. It divides it and then it tries to fill them into even spaces as much as possible. I think really when you get the most interesting results, though, is when you have kind of things where the division isn't perfect, like 30%. You end up with those 5 notes. You can go down to, go up a little bit more. That's pretty cool. You can also play around with actually changing the whole pattern length too. That'll give you some interesting results as well. So we can go to 13, for example. That's nice as well. Let's play around with that. Now, the beauty of this is, like I said, it can be automated. So all we have to do now for our snare roll is to go and add in a single note like that. Probably want to make sure that note chase is on. But now when you play this back, we've, of course, got control over a lot of the actual drum sound itself. So, for example, we could just draw in some automation for the snappy parameter here. Now our snare is going to get brighter. We might want to just increase the decay towards the end as well. So let's just do a little bit of decay at the end. And what I want this to do now as well is I want to kind of have this groove more when it's sparse in the beginning. And kind of as it gets to the end of its loop, I want it to just be slamming the drums all the same velocity. So what we can do is just automate the velocity sensitivity here. Or you can also do it with the low velocity down this side. And you can also change the actual pattern as you see fit as well, whilst it's just moving. It kind of does so organically and shuffles the whole pattern around. So we could play around with that as well. Let's just, for the sake of this, I'm not sure what it will sound like yet, but let's do a lower value in the beginning. So now we're changing the number of accents. The pattern's actually going to change up to this point here. We stick with the pattern there, and then from this point, we're going to take the velocity sensitivity, and the difference between the low notes and the high notes is going to become less and less and less until we actually drop out of that whole 9-bar loop. Just take a listen to what this sounds like. You see how quick and easy that was to set up a nice drum roll now with a bit of groove. Check this out. There you go. Tons of different ways that you can set that up. I think this kind of changing the accents in the beginning is a little bit arbitrary. I would probably just leave it. The accents, this one. And yeah, I think in this case, doing something a little bit more accent count. We can play around with that one. Something like. Yeah, there we go. And now the. Super cool. There you go. Easy to do. And yeah, pretty much just a single note you're playing down there that you can adjust the parameters in automation from there. Cool. I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.